Hey guys, and welcome back to my Basics of Photography series. Today we're going to be talking about cameras. Now, most of the cameras, or all the cameras we're going to be talking about, and all the things we're going to be talking about in this series is going to be based around digital photography. Main reason for that, digital is everywhere these days. Not a lot of people shoot on film. It is getting more popular, but it is slightly more advanced technique. But for general population and for most of you guys, you're going to all be shooting on digital. So we're going to be concentrating on most of that. I will do a series later on around my film photography. I do a lot of film photography, not so much in sport, although it is something I'm trying to experiment with this year to kind of see what we can come up with. But yeah, most of it's going to be digital. So there's three different types of cameras you're going to come across. You've probably seen all of them at some point in time. You have a point and shoot camera, you have a compact camera, and you have an SLR or a DSLR for digital. First and probably the most common one you've seen, we've all had one at some point, is the point and shoot camera. As the name suggests, you literally just point and shoot. Point at your subject, hit go. There's not a lot of settings on these things. Generally very small, very simple mechanics or very simple electronics in them. Not as high a resolution, so they're kind of your entry level. You can usually pick these up really, really cheap. Everyone's had one at some point. You can almost guarantee every family's had one. Everyone's got one that takes on family holidays. Even down to, you can get some very kind of just raw, cheap, flimsy ones. Or you can get, up to ones like this, like the Olympus U-Tough. This is like it's waterproof, it's drop proof, it's shock proof, it's all sorts of stuff. You literally just bash it around. We take it to the beach with us. We, throw it in your backpack. You completely forget about it. So with these ones, they're going to have very basic settings. You can see on the back here, a little setting button at the back. Generally, they're going to have I'll put it on for you. I'm not sure it's going to focus. So they'll have their little camera. So they're going to have a camera button. They're going to have a complete auto. And they're generally going to have some kind of I'm probably going to go past it, little movie camera kind of button that you can take a movie with. Once you dive into these, they do generally have a few other little bits and pieces that you can change in them, setting wise. Very, very kind of very digitally done settings. So they're not settings in a camera. So like your exposure settings, so how long the shutter stays open for, it's done digitally. There isn't actually a physical shutter in here that's going to move to keep the sensor exposed. The quality of the electronics in these is usually a little bit cheaper as well. Usually fairly basic. You can still get very good photos out of these though. One thing that I will preach, and you'll hear me talk about a lot in this, the gear doesn't matter. Yes, you can get different images and you can get different effects and things you can do in cameras with more expensive gear, obviously. But if you don't know how to use it, it's not going to make any difference. There's a really good series on YouTube, which I'll link to down below, which you guys would probably be might find interesting. Chase Jarvis, he's a massive international photographer. Does a lot of sport and action photography. Does a lot of portrait and stuff as well. He took part in it, which is kind of where I got into it. It's basically a pro shooting with absolutely horrendous cameras, to put it simply. Very basic cameras, down to, I think, Chase shot with a Lego camera from memory in the series, and showing that basically the gear doesn't make the photographer makes the gear work. And if you know how to use the equipment, doesn't matter how shit it is, you can make any photo look amazing or any shoot look amazing. You just have to work within your limitations and know how to manipulate the light, which is something we'll get into in a future episode, sneak peek. So yeah, point and shoot cameras, nice, cheap, entry level. They'll generally have built-in zooms in them. The zoom, depending on the camera you get, some of them will have, so this has got a little bit of a mechanical lens in here. Obviously not a lot of room for a lens to move and extend. So the zoom, majority of the zoom in this is digital. When you talk about digital zoom, it's like when you enlarge a photo on your computer. The more enlarged you get, the more pixelated it gets, and the more kind of less smooth the image is and less sharp the image is. Same with these. When you zoom in digitally, same as with your phone. You'll notice with your smartphone, if you do a really big zoom, the image gets a bit blurry and shaky, and it's harder to get focus. It's hard to get that nice sharp image. So you're generally very limited in terms of the zoom you get, but it's still a really good option just to get into it and get started. The other one is a compact camera. I don't actually have a compact camera on me. I will put a photo up here just so we can, or a couple of photos up here just so you can see what they look like, front, back, up, down, side to side. Compact camera is like an SLR camera. The only difference is The lenses, so an SLR camera, which I'll show you in a second, you can take the lenses off and interchange the lenses. A compact camera is like a compact SLR. So the lenses are generally built into the camera itself. So it's one compact unit. They're generally a little bit smaller as well, just because the electronics aren't as technical, there's not as much stuff going on in them. But again, you can get some really good, amazing photos out of them. They will have, unlike the point and shoot that has the real small width for a mechanical zoom, compact cameras will have a fixed or a lens mounted to the front of it that would generally have a mechanical zoom in it, as well as they generally will have a digital zoom in them as well. So kind of a step up from your point and shoot, not quite to an SLR, kind of a good blend in between. Again, because of that step up, they're going to have a lot more settings involved in them as well. You're generally going to have some form of a manual mode on it. A lot of those settings, again, are done electronically and done by the processing in the camera itself rather than physical kind of changes. But you can get a lot more, you've got a lot more room to move and a lot more settings to adjust and things to work within there, which makes them a good little step up if you want to get that a little bit more in depth. Then we step up to the big boys. So we step up to your SLR cameras. So this doesn't have a lens on it at the moment, so I've got a little lens cap on there. Your SLR cameras or DSLR cameras are going to have all the bells and whistles, are going to have all the buttons. Now, there is a broad range of these days. This is a Canon 5D Mark II. I generally only shoot with Canon. The only time I don't is when I'm shooting film, and I'm shooting with either one of my old Pentax, my Mamiya, or my little point and shoot that is an Olympus. There's very much a Holden v Ford type debate of Canon v Nikon. I am a Canon diehard, always have been, always will be. As I said, these are sort of the next step ups. These are a lot more involved cameras. There's a lot more settings involved. There's a lot more lenses available. You can get lenses up to and including, this is not even one of the biggest ones, this is kind of in mid-range. From that down to tiny little lenses to everything in between. I'll go through lenses in my next one, so you'll see a lot more of those. But with these ones, as you can see, when we turn it on, there's no card in there at the moment, so it's going to have a bit of a hissy fit and you're not going to see the back of it. Let's quickly throw a card in just so you can show you the back. There is a lot more involved in, so with these ones, there is a lot more involved in the back of the cameras. So as you can see, if that's going to focus for me, there's a lot more settings involved, there's a lot more different things that you can look at, even down to the top. There's a little information screen on the top that has a lot more info for you, and our little dial at the top there. So I'm going to run through what all these different things mean here, run through what all the different settings are here, obviously there's stuff on the back. There's a lot more possibilities with these. The sensors involved inside, so you can see there's a little mirror. I'll take the little lens cap off. You can see there's a little mirror. Behind that mirror is a sensor, so that's actual physical shutter. So a lot of the settings and a lot of the movements that you can do with this are mechanical rather than actual just digital. So you're going to capture the light as it is. You're not going to be capturing sort of a digital representation of what the settings are. These things are going to let you do a lot more. They're going to get you not just the actual camera itself, but the different lenses, the different attachments and stuff you can put onto them are going to give you a lot more functionality and a lot more usability, I suppose, depending on where you're shooting, what you're shooting, how far subjects are away. You know, get a telephoto lens if you're shooting just walk around video. This does take, I'll run through it a little bit more, but this does take up to 1080p video. And the 5D Mark II was one of the first ones that, the first DSLR that came out that was actually able to take production quality video. I don't take videos with this. I will sometimes use it, which is why I'm using my phone today. I will sometimes use it as my recording camera for YouTube, just because it's what I've got. I'm not getting another camera when this one does the job. But they actually, the TV show House was actually one of the first production events that they actually shot an entire episode using nothing but 5D Mark IIs. And no one could tell the difference. It was amazing. So this does shoot video. The more modern ones, so this one is getting old now. This has been my workhorse for 10 plus years. I've had this thing for a very, very long time. But yeah, it'll be over 10 years now. But it works. I don't have any issue with it. Canon, it just testament to the quality of Canon. This thing's been going for 10 years. I couldn't even tell you how many thousand shoots. I will actually look up the shutter count. I'm scared to look at what it actually is. I will look at the shutter count of that. But DSLRs are built strong. So this is actually I don't know if you can hear it. It's actually a matte metal body. Yes, there are a few bits of plastic on the back and stuff, but the majority of the metal housing is metal. So it is built like an absolute brick shit house. It's near indestructible. As I said, it's been going for over 10 years. This thing, same thing. It's designed to be, this particular one is, as I said, it's the U-Tough, so it's designed to copper beating, but it has less moving parts in as well, as most point and shoots do. They have a lot less moving parts, there's a lot less to break. Your DSLRs, these days, you can get like your 60Ds and stuff like that are kind of like entry level. So this is designed when it came out as a professional portrait photography, professional portrait camera. Obviously, I've gone a little bit further than that. I use it for everything. If you know how to use it, as I said, if you know how to use the equipment, you can do anything with it. At the time, you could get the 1D as well. The 1D was more of the sports version of that, higher shutter rate, higher image per second or shots per second. These days, you can also get into what are called mirrorless cameras. So as I showed you the mirror in there, that mechanically moves up and down. They have what's called mirrorless cameras these days that has gotten away with that. And the shutter is effectively electronic. So there's the sensor in the back rather than the mirror. So there is a sensor in the back here as well, but that mirror just opens up to expose. Mirrorless cameras will actually not have the mirror. Very, very similar looking cameras, but because they haven't got the mechanical mirror, they can be a little bit smaller. And you can fit the same sort of thing. You've got a whole bunch of lenses and stuff to go on it. I haven't ventured into mirrorless yet. Not because I don't want to, more because I don't need to. I said I've got this. This has been working as an absolute workhorse for years.